And we're back. Happy Monday, everybody.
Hello.
Or whenever you're listening. Hello, Jen.
Hello, Todd.
So today we're talking about, I guess, a little bit of everything, but we're going to talk about pricing. And maybe try to tackle it in a different way. We're not talking about how you should price or your pricing structure, because that shit's boring kind of to me at this point in my life.
Yeah, I think
if you don't have that figured out, go figure it out and then come back. And
this topic came out of just talking about how people have anxiety around pricing and some funny stories that just happened to all of us and things that can probably resonate with you when you either think about a price increase or you have done a price increase. And just kind of have some humor around the topic, because I think it needs it.
It definitely needs it. So I don't know why. I mean, I guess I get it. Money makes people uncomfortable.
Correct.
But I think we could all agree that we need money.
Yes, everything costs something.
Right. And I think we could all agree that everything, it's called inflation, but let's make it simple. So everything keeps going up in price, right?
Correct.
Like your gas, your basics, the stuff you hear, like them talking about on the news, like your eggs and your gallon
Fruits
of
and
milk
vegetables,
or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not just because of today. That's always. So, and it's supposed to stay relative, but when you don't increase prices ever, everything continues to go up. Your rent or your mortgage, your groceries, your fuel for getting around, whatever, the cost of taking care of a home, things go up. You don't increase your price, you're making less money.
Right. Or you're trying to work extra to keep up.
Right.
Which is what most people do at first, and then realize, I can't keep up this pace. What am I supposed to do?
No. Yeah.
Or then they just either leave the industry, or there's the light bulb that goes off and is like, wow, I do need to increase these prices so that I can even just stay afloat.
Live.
Yeah.
Like all of your supplies for work. That's a great point right there. So regardless of if you're independent or you're a commissioned salon owner or whatever, you're working in a commissioned salon, the prices of the things you need to do your job. Like if you're listening and you're like, well, I'm at a commissioned salon, so they pay for my stuff. I don't care. Really? You need scissors?
Yeah, you need combs, you need clips.
You need stuff to do your job.
Yeah.
You should care. Start
all of that
paying
has
attention.
gone up in price.
Right. So I've been seeing recently people being critical of others on social media platforms. And I don't know if it's specific or if people are just sort of venting and then trying to create their little echo chambers they do. But saying like, stylists or barbers are getting greedy and charging too much and blah, blah, blah. So, and that's always interesting because 3 years ago, the hair industry was claiming that, for the most part, was claiming that it was essential. They were saying we're essential. We should be allowed to be open while everyone else is forced to close. All this ridiculous stuff, right? Because the hair industry is not essential by any stretch of the imagination. Any sane person would not say that the hair industry is essential, right? Because if you don't get a haircut, nobody dies, nobody starves.
Right.
Nobody becomes permanently disfigured. Like you just didn't get a haircut.
Right.
And now people are claiming that the hair industry, just a few years later, is a luxury. Okay, so which one is it? Because those are drastically different things.
Right.
So, and we're, again, trying to have a little humor with this, but
hopefully you got some chuckles even just out of that.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we kind of wanted this episode to not be so specific, like do this or do this, but just sort of have some fun. So we were driving recently and we went past a road that you recognized and you were like, I used to have a client from this area or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you tell that story? So you were doing how did it start? You were doing a price increase?
Yes. So this is how this whole topic came about, because I think often we feel alone. Like when it comes up that you're ready for a price increase, it can be scary or it's uncomfortable, right? And I get it. Uncomfortableness means you're growing, whatever. Fuck that. It's still uncomfortable. So
fuck that.
Yeah, you should grow. Don't get me wrong, but it is uncomfortable. And sometimes people can't relate to that. So I remembered this story because I don't know. I think people think like, oh, you've been doing hair so long, like things just come easy to you. But there are some very uncomfortable moments still. So yes, I had a price increase, and one of my clients, they were aware. Everybody knew.
Was it a big increase or like?
Probably not, because at that point I think I was too scared to do shit. So I'm talking.
It was like $5.
Yeah, so it was nothing major.
I'm just going to raise my haircut $5 because that's what someone across the street did.
Right. I was so uncomfortable that it was a very minimal amount, and this was like she got a single process haircut blow dry, so maybe it went up $10, right? Because I probably went up $5 on my color, $5 on my haircut. Anyway, so she's checking out, and at the time, I must have been up front. We had a receptionist. Anyway, so I don't know exactly the words, but basically she was like, so I drive really far to see Jen, which far was like 20 minutes. But anyway, and gas prices have gone up. So I have to pay for like extra gas now to come here to get my hair done. So I'm not going to pay for this price increase.
Oh, she just flat out said no?
Yeah, like, no, it's not fair. Like, I pay more money, whatever. Now, hold on. I'm pausing on purpose.
Okay.
Because I want y'all to think, what would you do in that situation? And what do you think I did?
I can tell you what I would do.
You'd be like, too bad, you're paying it.
No, I would just say, okay, and then they would never come back.
Mm-hmm. No, I just said, okay, you can pay your old price. Like an idiot.
You let her bully you?
Yeah, I did. And from there, she just kept taking like, hey, can you just throw like 3 foils in the front of my head? And like, I didn't know how to charge for that. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And it just became saltier and saltier and saltier. Finally, she moved away. But I hope this story resonates, because I think there's a lot of people like my old self that just like, it gets scary. So there's a little pushback and you're like, okay. But here's what I'm going to say.
Did you own the salon?
I own the salon. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about that on a few levels. The leadership side of that, I sucked, because that means
say sucked. That was
to my staff,
term.
I'm not showing them how to lead when there are price increases. So epic fail on my part there. From even just stand behind everything I did. And then from another side is, how is that fair to my other clients? Because everyone that was like, okay, I'll pay it. Yeah, charge your worth, girl. You did it. Congrats.
I hate that term.
I know, that's why I did it.
Charge your worth.
But they're all like, cool, and they're celebrating me. But then I had, whoever the handful that didn't, and I leave them there. Like, so that's not fair. It's just not across the board, which I no longer do that. It's across the board. It is what it is.
What about fair to you? You didn't even touch on that.
Yeah, I never even think of that, because I'm always like...
So you're just making less money because this person
when that person
decided.
Comes in. Mm-hmm. Because their gas is...
Yeah, but your gas is also gone up.
I know.
Do you have a special gas station that's less money than everyone? I mean, that woman probably does.
Oh my gosh,
she probably went into the Circle K or wherever and was like, hey, I'm not going to pay this gas price increase. I also want people listening to think about how absurd that sounds when you put it into other context. Like, where the fuck, and I'm sorry for my language, but this is, where the fuck are you going that you're like just bargaining with people? What is this?
That wasn't even a bargain. It was just flat out no. I'm like, and my receptionist and myself, I don't even know what to do. It was so uncomfortable. So literally I just like cowered down. I was like, okay.
I don't get it. So
so frustrating. But
you do that at like your coffee shop. Hey, price. No, you notice
you either get less coffee, or you get a smaller one, or you don't get a coffee. Like I don't even know why we have to announce it in this industry. It's the most bizarre thing.
It's people want to post everywhere like price increase after so long of putting this off.
Yeah, because of the situation I just told. They think it's going to help, and it's not.
No, it's not. The people that are going to be jerks are going to be jerks.
Yes.
Regardless. You could go up 50 cents or you can go up $500, and they're going to have the same reaction.
Yes.
Everything is relative.
It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm.
A jerk is a jerk. Somebody that is a pushover like you used to be is going to be a pushover. Yes. And that relationship is always going to be one-sided.
Yep.
So don't do that. Don't allow people to do that.
I hope you guys have stories like mine. And if so, somebody please reach out and tell me some more, because I can't be alone here.
Good Lord.
I think too, like I have had some situations where there's been price increases, and especially my last one, because it was a pretty big jump. And some people like were asking questions, which made me uncomfortable. And then I've grown so much that I'm like, they're just processing it in their own way. They're just trying to understand like, okay, what does this look like? Like whatever. And then like, okay, what does that look like for them and their budget? And sometimes you just have to pause and let them do their own thing. Like, I'm not going to over explain it. Just now it is what it is. And they process it and they make their own decisions. They're all grown adults. Like, that's just how that goes. It's not mine to explain or over explain or give any details.
Right.
I've learned.
When I had my gym, similar story, and I won't go into as great of detail because I sort of blacked it out of my memory because I don't care anymore. But I think it was like 7 years that I hadn't done a price increase. And I finally was like, I had a business mentor at the time, because that's what you should have if you have a business. Everyone should. And I spoke with him and he was like, bro, you got to raise your prices because this is ridiculous. You're charging 2000, 10 prices, 2000, even earlier prices.
Right. And when you looked at your numbers, in order to be profitable, that had to go up.
Right. And so, I raised my prices, and I want to say, so we had like 2 group options, and one of them went up like $20. Say, I got
a month.
Yeah, a month.
Yeah, not like per class or whatever.
No. And so it just, the people that were paying my minimum price were the ones that were complaining the loudest. Mm-hmm. So we had $120 level for group fitness or whatever. Those people that were paying that price when it went up to like, say, 130 or 140, whatever it went up to, were literally, one of them wrote a letter. I got a letter, like a page letter.
Oh, geez.
That was talking about like the uncomfortableness that I was causing people or whatever. And I was like, what? But then you look at the other side, and this is where I go, I don't care, because I look on the other side. And when I was doing personal training, and barbers always talk about their prices, like, you're not worth $100 haircut or $50 or $200, whatever the amount is. People just want to pile on people, right? Because it makes them feel better about their $4 haircut, I guess. But, and I'm not being negative. Don't charge $4 for haircuts. I was just picking that out. Yeah. But what I was saying is, I had people that were paying one-on-one prices that were giving me checks for $1,300 a month.
Right.
And sometimes more when they wanted to come in for more sessions.
Right.
Like, I think my record was like $1,550 or something like that. It sounds off the top of my head. I'd have to do the math, but never complained. Mm-hmm. Thanked me every session.
Right.
But the people paying the lowest rate always complained. Yeah. Just complain. And I'm like,
and want everything under the sun.
So hopefully,
and that's relative in all businesses.
Yeah. And I didn't treat people any differently. Like the people that were paying $120 didn't get less of my effort. I wasn't rude to them or go out of my way to make people feel bad.
No. The people that were paying that top level were getting one-on-one individual, which is, it was different. That's what they were paying for.
That's the different. They're getting personalized, custom, everything. Right. So they're getting whatever the programming was specific to their goals.
Totally.
All that sort of stuff.
Which is a different price.
Right. And so your people that are always going to hang out at the lower end, entry level, we'll call it, those are always going to be your complainers. Not all of them, but that's where those complainers are going to live, in that realm. And they're going to use money to be their excuse. Like, they're going to say, well, I give you $120 a month. Right. Okay.
But at the end of the day, we all have to run a business.
Hey guys, line up. All these people give me $1,500.
Right.
And they're not throwing it in my face. Why are you trying to make me feel bad for $100?
Right. And that's part of it. Then we feel bad and we start to like back down. And that's where I think too, when you are having a price increase, having a business mentor helps you. There are scenarios I would work through. I would role play so that you feel confident behind it. And when you're ready to implement that, you feel confident about it. I do think we talked a little bit earlier of kind of people putting some absurd prices out there and making fun of people that charge a lot and, that they're charging too much, whatever. But I think there's something about that I'd like, when you see that pricing, that I want, I guess, an awareness for you to come. Because if you're in your own bubble, and let's say you've charged $40 for a haircut for the last couple of years, and then you see that and someone's charging, I don't know, $500 for a haircut, say, whatever. And you're like, whoa, that's not possible. But if you only think that everybody will only pay $40, then yes, that's never possible. But sometimes when you see these people showing you what they're charging or what people are paying, whether it's real or not, because understand too, it's social media. Just because they say they charge that does not mean they charge that.
They might have charged their one client that, then they
correct,
that
but
they can
it's not what
charge.
they really do.
Right.
Like social media is fake. But if you're charging 40 and you're like, I really wish I could charge 50 or 60 for a haircut, you can with support and a plan. I wouldn't just go and do it, but it doesn't mean that it's not obtainable. Sometimes I'm in salons and, we'll talk about my prices and they're like, well, you're in this area, so you can, I can't. And I'm like, I'm not in any special area. I'm not in a city.
It's not the area.
It's not at all.
I'll tell you right now. I know people
that's the first excuse though people give me. I don't live where you live. I'm like, okay.
I know people that own massive companies or parts of them. I know people with private jets. I know people with all sorts of money that live in places that you would not expect them to live in.
Correct.
So that's not a good argument. The
I know.
whole like where you are, that's like I could never charge as much as somebody charges in Boston because that's a big city. First of all, Boston's not that big. Second of all, why? A lot of the people that go into Boston don't live in Boston.
Right.
They live where we live.
Yes, I know.
They're here, folks.
So I think
there's always people with money.
The point is that you can get there, but you do need a path. You need a strategy. You need a plan. It's not just going to happen overnight. So sometimes you just need to burst your bubble and realize like anything that you want is obtainable. It's just.
What does that mean? Burst your bubble?
What are you talking about? You're living in a bubble that you're like, I could never charge anymore.
Oh,
like I'm going to burst it. Yeah.
Okay.
You just need a plan. Like it's just, if you're watching those things, you're like, I wish I could do that. It's possible. You need a mentor or you need a plan and you need to figure out how you can get there. Like there's going to be baby steps in order to get to that end result. It doesn't happen overnight.
You also, all this stuff, like joking aside, it takes effort and planning, like you're saying, Jen, because if you want to attract the wealthiest people in your area, and that's what you want to cater to, and you really want to go luxury instead of just writing that you're luxury, because most people just write that you're luxury and they do exactly what every other salon or shop does. But there are things that you can do to step up that experience, but it involves taking your ego out, because if you're not that person that is, say, wealthy or has the disposable income, you're probably not thinking how those people think. So you've got to put yourself in their shoes. And when you're creating your service, it has to be something that they would want. It has to be what they're looking for, not what you're looking to post on social media, but what they want. Because I'm telling you right now, they're not on social media. They're not wasting their time. You're not finding the wealthiest people on social media. It's not going to happen.
Correct.
So I think that was the end of that point I was making.
It was good.
You just have to plan, and you're going to have to do some market research and things like that. I want to keep this light, but you have to look around. Like there was one time we had I wrote up a proposal for a company, and I broke down everything. You had to get traffic numbers and all this stuff. It ended up being like, I don't know, like 13 or 14 pages of information. It was just all data and statistics, because that's what big companies, when you're asking somebody to invest money into you, which is what we were trying to do, they need to see their return. They need to see their the return.
What's
or
it gonna
does
do
this
for
make
me?
sense?
Yeah.
So that's another thing to think of too. And I'm sort of jumping around, but if your rent is, let's just grab numbers. So if your rent is $1,000 a month, you probably can get away with charging less than somebody whose rent is $10,000 a month.
Correct.
There's only so many hours. There's only so many people. So if that $10,000 person is charging $50 a haircut and the $1,000 a month person is charging $50 a haircut, who do you think is going to make out in the end?
Right.
The person
with the $1,000 rent.
$1,000 rent. Obviously, that person with the $10,000 rent should have thought that out first. But no, they have to charge relative to that, and it's not always what people post on stupid social media. Because I keep seeing too, it's years behind the chair. No, it's not. It's not years behind the chair.
Well, not when, especially when depending on what your rent and your bills are.
When I came out of barber school, I was charging more for my haircuts than people that probably have been doing hair for a lot longer.
Yeah.
It was because we figured out our pricing structure and what that needed to look like, not the other way around. I didn't go, what's everyone charge, guys? Where do you think I should start?
I think that's a good point, because I do see that a lot on social media too. Like, don't just charge what the person next to you does. Don't charge from where you came from. But if you don't understand why, you're like, why? What does it matter?
Nothing matters if you don't understand.
Right. So the why is because your numbers and what you need to be profitable are going to be different than the person sitting next to you. If you're renting a chair, in the next plaza, the salon, like it's not the same playing field. And the reason for that is everybody has different financial responsibilities. So your prices should help in the situation where what are you financially responsible for? And your prices need to reflect that so that at the end of the month, you are profitable. And that's why it really depends to the individual.
Yeah. There's so many different directions we can go with this.
I know. I wish I had more stories of clients that complained, but I can't think of any right now. The gas one was a big one. That makes me chuckle every time.
Yeah. I think just the hair industry needs someone. If the hair industry was a person, it needs somebody to grab their shoulders and just shake them.
Right.
Because everyone, I feel like, makes these massive problems out of the smallest things. Mm-hmm. But then we ignore stuff like people are like miserable. People are quitting doing hair because they can't see a career. They don't see an opportunity. Right. They don't see growth. And it's their weak ass leadership that is telling them not to charge more or is afraid.
Like, showing them how. Like
an owner that holds, and I know people that do this, I've seen it, but an owner that holds people back and doesn't want them to charge more is so confusing to me. Like, why? Because as a business owner, that helps you and the person.
Correct. Now,
why would you want to hold that person back? I get it, because then you're going to have to raise your prices and you're uncomfortable.
Or a step further, because I do think there are scenarios, and I do like to touch upon this, because I think with social media, a lot of people are like, well, they're raising their prices, so I want to raise mine. And we have had these conversations in our salon where people...
Yeah, outliers, though. I'm not talking about that specifically, but it's a good point. Go ahead.
Yeah, so...
I'll allow it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, we bring on new staff, and so it makes maybe other staff that came on feel more seasoned, right? So there are people that have come to us and like, well, I want to raise my prices. Now I've been here longer than so-and-so. Okay.
Not about how long you've been here.
Correct. So this is where I'm going, right? Like, I love that you're ready to do this, but let's look at your numbers. And if I was leading this person poorly, I'd be like, sure, raise your price, right? You've been here longer. You're more senior than them. You should charge more. But then if they are not busy enough, they're going to fall on their face, and 0% of 0 is still 0. So you're not making any more money. You're actually probably making less. So at Hello, we have a strategy of certain things that need to be balanced. So when you make this price increase, it feels good, it builds confidence, and it makes you ready, I guess, and gives you strength. So when that comes up again, you understand you're not going to fall on your face, and we've prepared you for success. So there are some people that have come to us and they want to, but they're not ready because of a bunch of different factors of the equation we use to price increase with success for their future. So sometimes as a leader, you have to explain that though too. And once we do, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I got to work on X, Y, and Z. And then once you're ready and you're there and the numbers prove it, let's raise those prices so that you can do it in a way that you're like celebrating and not scared.
I want to touch on, that was all good stuff. I want to touch on where I was going at first with that was the time behind the chair doesn't necessarily like dictate anything. No. Your ongoing education, I see that a lot too on social media. And it's like, well, I took X amount of classes this year. Right. But have you applied any of that knowledge? So your 1 year and my 1 year looks way different. Like you can buckle down for 1 year hard, but if you come in and you're sitting around for 1 year, who got further?
Correct.
So you're saying that you should charge what I charge because we both say have 1 year behind the chair or one more year behind the chair, but you've been sitting around doing nothing. And I've actually worked on improving whatever it is, whether it's your technical skill or whatever.
Yeah. The time-based means nothing.
No. Because we've seen a lot of people too, not a lot, but a handful of people that have come through that are like, I've been doing hair for 5 years. What they mean to say is I've had a license for 5 years. I took 4.5 years off.
Yes.
You do not have 5 years of experience.
No.
Like I've been licensed for 5 years, not I've done hair for 5 years. They're very completely different things.
And I think owners, if you're listening, that is something to ask, because that is a true statement right now. There are a lot of people,
especially where we had that pandemic and everybody
where and it's, everybody needs help, so I get that. But you have someone that comes in and they've held a license for 5 years, so you think, oh, they know what they're doing. But I'm going to tell you right now, exactly what Todd just said. There's a very big difference between I've held a license and I've actually been working for the last 5 years. And I think you have to look at their work history now along with how long they've had that license, because they're not the same anymore.
Yeah.
Everything's changing. But that one we've seen firsthand.
Yeah, that's a big one. The other thing about pricing that you're going to, like, it's kind of funny, kind of not, because I don't want people to be this way, but if you're charging certain people less, you're going to start doing things that go against your principles, right? So if you're like, well, they didn't get a price increase last time around, so I can skip this part.
Absolutely.
Or I can do this, or you know what, screw them. I'm going to double book them.
100%. I agree with that.
Because they're not paying as much anyways.
Yes.
And you're trying to justify a situation that you've allowed to happen. Because again, kind of being funny, but I don't remember the last time I walked into a grocery store and been like, sorry, this OJ is just ridiculous. I'm not paying these prices. I'll pay $2. And somebody said, imagine. And they said, okay, fine. You know what, Todd? You've been coming here since you moved to this town. So you know what? That's fine. You can pay $2 for your orange juice. And I'm going to call Tim and let him know at the gas station you can pay less there too. Like that just doesn't happen. So why do we in this industry allow that to happen? And it's you. It starts with you. You're behind the chair. You're the boss. Whether you're actually the boss or not doesn't matter.
But you should be set up for success.
You're in charge.
Or set yourself up.
Yeah. And if you're dealing with this on your own, find a mentor, but also like question where you're at, I guess, because if you're not getting the right leadership, we know salons that, I just try to be careful with my words because I don't want to point anybody out specifically, but I know salons that I feel like could be successful and really fun and whatever, but they just have crap leadership. And it doesn't last. Once that, we've talked about like the honeymoon phase before in podcasts. Once that honeymoon phase wears off,
if you don't have a foundation and strong leadership,
now your staff is kind of splitting up and things are getting catty, and it just breaks down your business from within. And more often than not in that scenario, from what I've seen from my little bit in this industry, and then, being alongside you for so many years in the industry, is the leadership then buries their head in the sand and blames everything and everyone around them for whatever's going on.
Yes.
And
it spirals
fast. I know you have an off-air story because of the smile smirk that you just made. I didn't have anything specifically in my head when I said that, but I inspired something in yours.
Yeah, so I was telling you about it the other day. I don't know if you remember.
I don't.
I hear it's crazy with if you just sort of like keep your ears open, the shit you hear, people will tell me stuff, and sometimes they're actually even looking advice for a friend or whatever. It's just interesting. And I am super professional and respectful, and I just take it in and give advice when I can and keep my mouth shut.
I know one person that was, we were talking with recently, that was like, the owner of our salon does all of these things. And they, what were they talking about specifically? Oh, it was product lines. Excuse me. Any new product line that comes out, they get it.
Yeah.
They get the whole thing, and they think that's going to
keep their staff happy.
But instead it's just, now your salon it looks like a warehouse.
Well, and at that point too,
what do you really believe in?
Right.
Every single company works for you.
Exactly.
Every single thing lines up with your beliefs, or every single brand.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's not where you go. Talking about pricing, there's a whole shit ton of money just sitting on shelves for no reason whatsoever.
My soul hurts when I go into places and I see their retail like so large, and I'm like, wow, that's so much money. And then I just wait, because you know what's going to happen? One of those brands is going to rebrand, and now what do you do?
Oh, the repackaging thing is annoying too. But You don't have to deal with that stuff. You can sell products in a smart way and still make money and still make like progress with retail or whatever your goal is with it.
We found a great balance at the salon and I love it.
Yeah. Anyways, what else do we want to talk about with pricing? I think I think the last thing I'll say is that people need to get away from the groupthink mentality.
Yes.
And so when you start looking at stuff online, it's so easy. And I've caught myself doing it too. Don't get me wrong. Like, humans are just designed this way, but you will just tend to find the stuff that supports your argument.
Right.
Whatever it is. Right.
It's just how your mind will be drawn.
That's why I said I didn't want to talk about pricing structure, because whether people talk about a la carte or hourly or hybrid pricing or whatever word you want to put on it, that's irrelevant. Mm-hmm. You need a plan and a strategy that's going to work for you, not just find something and then die on the hill yelling that it's the best.
Right.
Like, if you don't know how to make it.
It is very individualized or very individual and very customized per person.
I guarantee you, and I know because I've done it, I could take like an hourly pricing structure and make that work. And I can also take the a la carte pricing, because I did it at your last salon. I took your a la carte pricing with, I think, 9 levels. Mm-hmm. And I worked out what each thing should cost based on those levels. And you guys decided the levels. I just did the math. Mm-hmm. And it's possible. You can do that and you can have a system. But if you don't have a system and you're always just like, I'll just raise it by $5 or whatever, it's at some point you're going to run out of something somewhere, because things are going to break down. You don't have
a true system,
a foundation that anything is built off of. Yeah. So I think that's much more important to come up with, is it's not what system you want. It's just making a system work for you.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, we could sit here and argue it again and again and again and again, which everyone likes to do online.
I was going to say, no, thank you.
Or we could just say, okay, like when we mentor people, I don't ever try to change their structure. I try to provide structure.
Right.
I try to give them options, and I try to give them pros and cons of both structures or all structures, because we've done them all.
Right.
And then just which one works for you, and sometimes it is sort of breaking the ice of doing the $5 haircut price increase.
Oh yeah.
Just to get one on, just to do one,
Absolutely.
All right. I think that's good. It's like 30 minutes.
Wonderful.
We're trying to tone these down.
Yes, this is our
100th. It is.
How would you say that? 100th?
Yes, that's how you speak English.
My English is not awesome.
So
episode 100.
So we have one more month, right? And then we'll be at 2 years.
That's awesome. Welcome to my life. I don't speak well in English.
I don't speak
episode
well
100.
English.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Have a great day.
All right. We're out of here. Bye.